Hey, I'm Dr. Pilet, and I want to talk to you about your scores in regard to the Myers-Briggs. In particular, I want to discuss the folks that had the introverted score, the high introverted score. Now, keeping in mind, as I've discussed previously, when we look at this temperament test, we find that in a given population, we have an even distribution of extroverts and introverts, okay? However, what I find is the vast majority of my people that come through my anger management program are typically the introverted personalities. And you're going to, of course, ask, which the common question is, well, how come you're getting so many introverted personalities that are people that, they enjoy their private space, they enjoy their personal time, they enjoy their close friends and family, and they tend to stick to themselves, they tend to not be out and about like my extroverts. Why is it that you have so many introverts? Because common sense to many people say that it's the extrovert personality, that person that is used to expending the energy into the outside world, that they go to football games, and they like fishing, and they like soccer, and they're always expending that energy to the outside world. Some of them are very opinionated, they tend to speak up. Why is it you don't have more extroverted? And the only answer I can give you this, and it's sort of always just a theory from myself, and that is that when it comes to the extrovert personalities, people are so adjusted and so used to them being loudmouth and overbearing that they just turn away and walk away when they begin to scream and yell and get out of control. But my introverted personalities, my people that don't have that display, when they lose it and they're yelling and they're screaming and they're having that idea that I've had enough, you've crossed my boundaries too many times, now I'm going to let you know that you've actually done that. People tend to get so excited, so alarmed, they 911, call the police. And now when the police come, this person is typically quiet and soft-spoken, is exaggerated in their manifestation to explain what's happening. And that scared the hell out of people. When I talk to you about my introverted personalities, I want you to understand that they are just as worked up about their displeasure or the differences between what they have in their life, those things that cause them to be hostile, those things that cause them to be angry. I like to remind you that I often discuss this idea of anger as being the difference between what I have and what I want. That internal energy that's there, when it comes out, it's a surprise. My introverted personalities tend to think about it. They drive their car, they go home from work, they process people and topics and situations, the components of those things that arouse us. And as they internally process and work themselves in what I call a squirrel caging into a state, an internal frenzy, from the outside that people are, observing them, they just don't see that all this is going on inside. And sometimes they're mystified because when that introverted personality does eventually explode, it shocks the heck out of them. Because many of the things that the introverted personality is now saying are because they shifted to an extrovert. See, that's what I've found so interesting about the Myers-Briggs and my introverted people. That is, they tend to hold it in, and then when it comes out, when it explodes, it's such a surprise to the world around them that people that are part of their lives often don't know exactly what they're looking at. So when I'm talking to my introverts, and I like to point out to them that there's a big problem. And the problem is that many times they're confronted with a problem at a low level of conflict, but because their style is to withdraw and to move away, that problem, which was resolvable, which could have been mediated at a lower level, is not, because they withdraw, because they pull away. Now, as time progresses, that small problem has increased, if you will, to a larger magnitude, and over the length of a few days, a few weeks, a few months, now the small problem that was resolved was no longer a small problem. Now it's a big problem. And so what I try to work with, if you will, when I've identified introvert personality is, what does it take for you to begin to speak up? What does it take for you to begin to acknowledge that you have to convert your temperament style to a more solutions-focused style? And in doing so at a lower level of intensity, you're actually going to increase the quality of your life by, if you will, finding working relationships that are more focused on solutions and not so much focused on problems. You know, it's more interesting that I can teach my extroverts to shut up, and they can do that fairly easily. But teaching my introverts to speak up, that's really hard. They have no experience and no skills in the delivery of identifying what offenses they have that are applying to them. They have very little skill at speaking up to recommend solutions. And it's a very anxious, anxiety-provoking internal mechanism when I'm trying to get my introverts to speak up and address a problem at a much lower level. Introverts tend to enjoy that private space, enjoy their quiet time. Understand there's two different levels, if you will, that we see introverts. We have the feelers, the guys that tend to process emotions, loyalty, passion, the meaningfulness of relationships, marriage. They're in touch with meaningful things like the holidays and Christmas and New Year's and vacations. But I also have my introverts that tend to be thinkers, and those are the people that tend to be more focused on the facts of a problem. You know, do I have enough money to pay my bills? Am I working too many hours? When I have time available to go someplace, can I afford it? When the holiday season here is, maybe Christmas, if you will, as an example, they're not so caught up in the emotions of Christmas. They're caught up into the budget, and what kind of gift list am I going to have, and am I going to spend this amount of money or that amount of money? So even in the world of introverted personalities, we've got those two polar opposites, those people that tend to be very much devoted to feeling, those people that be devoted very much to thinking, facts, not feelings, feelings, not facts. But the one thing is common is that when they both reach that point where they've had enough, that explosion and that conversion to that extroverted personality is consistent enough that we can see that the family members around them often complain about, gosh, I could see that quiet, reclusive person. I could understand that they just don't deal good with problems, but oh my God, once they had enough, who is this person? As a backdrop to this, it's not unusual that I'll see my introverted person feel guilty for stepping up, yelling, screaming, taking on that characteristics of an extrovert. And they'll sit back and say, gee, I really regret that I did that. I'm so sorry that I did that. And now, after a very brief period of time, they've gone back into that observing, watching sort of, you know, very quiet, soft-spoken personality. And yet, so many times I've worked with couples where the other partner was an extrovert who said, when they were yelling and screaming, they made sense to me. Granted, I don't like it. Granted, it's offensive and I don't want it to happen again, but gee whiz, if I had my choice between two temperament styles, I'd rather him yelling and screaming because at least then I can figure him out versus that reclusive, quiet, silent person that I never can figure out what's going on in their mind. You know, again, understand we all have some introvert, some extrovert in us, maybe a lot of introvert and a little of extrovert. But there's always this idea that you can do both, but you have to make your mind up to do that. So if you're naturally prone to being that quiet personality, the decision to step up and be an extrovert may be very difficult for you. However, all of us can shift to a different personality and temperament style. And the wonderful part about this is that we can learn to shift to a style that benefits us the most at that particular moment with that particular person. And that's what this program is all about. Shifting to the style that best fits this particular person, okay? Understand, as we as parents step up to the plate raising our children, we also have the same issue, that our children also have different temperament and personality styles. And you as the parent have the job of trying to balance, get these personalities to find that middle ground so that the mix is such that we get along better, we fulfill our family goals and the dreams of our individual family members as we pursue life and in a meaningful way. Again, I'm hoping this helps you a little bit. I'm Dr. Pilet. Thank you very much.